Morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So today we're hosting the webinar Beyond Email, Microsoft 365 Business Standard, and we have the lovely James and Angela here to walk us through the features and components of Business Standard and Copilot as well, in comparison to what you might be used to, like Exchange Online. So I think James is starting, so I'll let him introduce himself in a moment and kick off. But firstly, this session is being recorded, which will be sent out to you afterwards. And then if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat too, or ask Cobweb as well. So thank you, James. Over to you.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone for being with us today. Andrew, I don't know if you may want to jump onto the agenda slide for us and we can kick things off there and I'll give myself a quick introduction, I suppose. So again, thank you for joining us. I'm James Graves. I'm one of the modern workplace specialists from Microsoft. Basically, what we're going to go through today is a little bit of stuff around the Microsoft 365 Business Standard offering, some of the features and functionality of it all, kind of the cost efficiencies of it, the values and the capabilities, and then I'm going to hand over to Angela, who I've got with us today as well. And Angela's going to go through the whole Copilot chat piece for you, which is kind of a really big value add that's available within the business licensing model over at Microsoft now. Angela, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself now or...
Yes, of course. So hi everyone. So I'm Angela. I'm Microsoft Copilot specialist. So here to support you just to build your confidence to start using Copilot and get the most value out of it.
Amazing. So jumping on to the next slide then, a bit of an understanding as to why you should choose and why you should be looking at Microsoft 365 Business Standard. So we're going to kind of go through a bit of the features and functionality of it as we start moving on here. Amazing. So what we tend to find at the present moment, we're looking at kind of the ecosphere and things that we see from Microsoft's data, etc., is that more and more businesses are starting to see challenges in certain areas, in particular around collaboration and productivity. They kind of being the core pieces, and the business standard license really starts to help in these sorts of areas. So when it comes to things like collaboration, we're talking about your employees within the business being able to communicate effectively among one another, but also their ability to be able to collaborate on documents, applications, etc., that they may or may not be using on a daily basis. That can be very simple things like a Word document that a couple of colleagues are jumping in and out of so that they can keep the document live and up to date. Maybe that's like an internal procedure or something of that nature, all the way through to something perhaps far more complex when you're generating your annual sales plan and you've maybe got 4 or 5 members of staff over a few week period, which again are all interacting with that document, the PowerPoint that's attached to it, the numbers that are coming from Excel, and all of those applications and the documents talking to one another as well as a part of that. So again, that whole collaboration piece and being able to do this collaboration from anywhere is kind of a really, really useful tool set, which becomes available from the Microsoft 365 Business Standard offering. We also mentioned on there the improved productivity aspect. So one of the brilliant things that comes with a Microsoft 365 Business Standard license is what we call installed applications. What that basically means is the applications for Word, Excel, Outlook and PowerPoint are all installed on the device, so the endpoint, which means when you're stuck on a train and you don't have a very strong connection to the internet, shall we say, in that scenario, you can still actively work on your documents that are saved on that device. You can still go in there, create that PowerPoint, start producing an Excel spreadsheet, etc., for that meeting you've got coming up, catching up on your emails and stacking them up ready to send as soon as you do get that good internet connection back to be able to send them. So some really powerful features and functions there that kind of improve the productivity, but also allow staff to improve their productivity and collaboration among one another, making sure that everything's done in a timely manner, but also to the best quality of work that can possibly be achieved from that. We also give a little mention there around some kind of robust security aspects of this as well. Business Standard is really where you'll start to see some of Microsoft's security features start coming in, like the multi-factor authentication, from a perspective of coming in there with the Entra ID piece of Microsoft. 2026 has got some pretty good announcements coming up for the Business Standard license as well, which are a little bit hush-hush at Microsoft's end at the moment, but there is some further security enhancements which are actually coming to the Business Standard license throughout 2026. If we go to the next slide, Angela. Amazing. And just to kind of go through some of these features within Business Standard a little bit more and look at some of these in a little bit more depth as well. And to talk about some of these individually, and again, these are some of the ones that we see the most benefit from, but it's by, no means an exhaustive list, shall we say, of everything that you'll see there. So if we start off there with Microsoft Teams, I'm sure many of you will have seen or potentially come across or heard of Microsoft Teams in the past, as it is one of the most widely used communication and collaboration tools that are out there at the moment. What Teams basically allows people to do, to break it down, is to create what's known as the chat functionality between yourselves and your internal colleagues and even external parties that are also using Teams, which, to be fair with you, is most businesses across the globe right now. If you look at the market saturation of Microsoft Teams versus competitor products that are out there for it. So it allows you to do that chat functionality, allows you to create what we call channels, etc., which is basically almost like subject matter talking points pages where you can, post things and have colleagues comment on them accordingly, share documents, updates, that sort of thing. And you can create multiple ones of them accordingly. Teams also comes with the ability to host meetings and webinars, etc., just as we are doing here now. So again, you come with the ability there to not only communicate internally, but then bringing that communication outwards to your customers and wider audiences as a part of that. One of the other beauties of Teams, and we're going to move on here to SharePoint, is it does actually integrate into what is known as SharePoint. And what SharePoint basically is, in short, is the ability to kind of create almost like a shared cloud storage environment. Is a very rudimental way of looking at this. So that allows all of your colleagues to be able to collaborate and share those documents, etc., as we were mentioning on the previous slides. So that would be, for instance, maybe one of those Teams channels we were talking about, and you upload into there maybe your sales forecast for the next 12 months. And as a part of that, that would save inside of your SharePoint location, and your colleagues within that Teams channel would be able to access that and collaborate on that particular document that you shared with them. So again, powerful set of tools there. SharePoint's a really, really heavily utilised product, again, globally by SMBs and enterprise businesses, and, comes in heavily, as Angela will go on to talk about, Copilot chats and things of that nature as well. OneDrive is almost like a flipped around version of SharePoint. So rather than it being something that's global, that you can share all your documents with your colleagues and so on and so forth, OneDrive becomes personalized to you. So it's your own localized storage in the cloud, basically. And when we say it's storage in the cloud, basically it means that when you save data inside of OneDrive, it basically saves itself to data centers that Microsoft have in the south of the UK. If memory serves me, there is one in London, but I think the other one's out towards Wales direction. So they do have a couple of data centers in the southern part of the UK where that data becomes saved, and then you can access that from anywhere. So whether you are in the office, in the coffee shop, sat in the airport, you access all of your data and can actively work on all of those solutions, which is, really, really powerful stuff for people to be able to be productive no matter where they're working from in the world. Then we move on to the desktop versions of the applications, which is obviously something we'd spoken about on the previous slide. These are installed versions of the applications, which means you can utilize them in an offline mode, which is, again, really useful for a lot of people that work remote or in hybrid scenarios. This does flip back to another version of the Microsoft 365 license, which is called Business Basic, that's available. And they only come with web-based applications, which means in an offline setting, you can't use them applications. So Business Standard, remote and hybrid working scenarios, again, really powerful feature that comes with that from those offline applications because they are installed. Next up, we've got Microsoft Forms, which is a bit of a value add, really, that's often not spoken about enough when it comes to the Microsoft 365 Business Standard license. And what Forms will basically allow you to do here is basically create forms for yourself. So whether that be a registration page to sign up to a webinar, or whether it be a feedback form that you're sending out to your customers after an event you've perhaps done or a meeting you've just hosted. Again, various different formats and ways that can be utilised. But again, it comes with some really good advantages from being able to collate information, and create bespoke forms en masse quite easily, really, for various different audiences, and various different purposes. Something that we use quite heavily is those forms, again, for various different things. feedback collection, just general as, event follow-ups and so on and so forth. It's really powerful in those regards. There is various other things you can do with forms and get, a little bit more complex with them in terms of doing a little bit of automation, etc. if you really wanted to, which is where that Power Automate piece at the bottom there starts to come into the equation, and you can start automating certain things based on, answers that are completed within that Microsoft form. We then move on to Planner, and Planner is great from a perspective of a team manager or a team leader and the ability to do a bit of project planning as a part of that. So from a planner's perspective, it would allow you to do things like organise your team in such a way that we're working on this project, but we also need to make sure our core work doesn't fall through the gap. You can create a structured plan for your team, organising who's going to be doing what parts, what dates, what times, set deadlines, and so on and so forth, really. So again, it allows you to get granular in terms of ensuring teams understand what they should be doing, when they should be doing it, but they can also notify management, team leaders, etc. when tasks have been completed. And, they can tick them off the spreadsheet, so to say, and say, yep, we've done that, we're all good. So again, really effective tool there. And the beauty of all these things that we're talking about is because it's all in the Microsoft ecosphere, everything communicates with one another. So there's email alerts that can be darted around when forms have been filled out or tasks have been completed in Planner. And it makes it a really nice interconnected kind of ecosphere with each other there. And then last but not least, we've got, as I mentioned a few moments ago, the Power Automate and the Power Apps perspective here. So this is very much the entry point into these solutions because they become vastly, vastly more advanced than this, especially with the introduction of generative AI from Copilot's perspective, etc., which Angela will obviously talk to. But what this Power Automate piece will allow you to do is to start automating some of the more menial tasks that people potentially have to do. It could be an email that comes in and it needs to automatically be filed somewhere if it has a particular word in it, such as maybe, invoice. You may want it shuffling out to a particular file or folder, and you can automate that sort of stuff. And again, that's a very basic version of what the capabilities are of this, but it does allow you to start creating some automated workflows and processes so that you can kind of start, taking some of that menial work away from certain staff members as a part of that. And Power Apps is all around you building your own applications in a low code or no code, as we call it, style environment. So, but in short, what we mean is you don't need to be a developer in order to create a basic application, such as, for instance, maybe it's a table booking application. So you can book tables in a restaurant. Again, very basic version of what the capabilities are there, but that's just an example of the sort of thing you can do is, create that application so someone could book a table for dinner at 8 p.m, for instance, for 4 people. And you can take all of that information within the app and report it all into you. And again, you can loop that into things like calendars and planners and so on and so forth as necessary. So that's just a very small snippet of some of the availability that's inside of the business standard license. There is vastly more than that. There's a whole Viva products of suite that comes in. You have things called Microsoft Shifts for shift pattern management, on top of other bits and pieces like Microsoft To Do that sits inside of there. Bookings, so that you can book meetings and have little links for people to easily book time and meetings in with yourselves. So again, it's a very long list of capabilities that are inside business standard. And I highly encourage you to reach out to the team at Cobweb, and we can go through this sort of thing in a little bit more depth for you and show you the intricacies of kind of the ROI that can come from these sorts of licenses versus other products, but also on the advanced capabilities it can bring you as a business. We're going to go to the next slide, Angela. Amazing. So now just to delve into a couple of the applications here, just to make sure everyone understands, well, what is Microsoft Word, what is PowerPoint, etc. We'll delve into these in a little bit more detail for you all. So Microsoft Word is basically, in sorts, a more advanced version of a typewriter is the easiest way I can probably describe this for you. Onto your laptop, you're creating a document from scratch, a Word document as we call it. So those Word documents are literally just a piece of text. You imagine somebody was writing, a student was writing an essay, for example, or something of that nature. Then you would go through this and it would literally be writing that document. You'll see on the example there on the screen that I've written out there a summary of Microsoft 365 Business Standard as a part of that. And that's just something I've gone in there and created. So I've typed that document out on my laptop, inputting in there all my bullet points, my different headers that I need, And again, it gives you a lot of capabilities in terms of being able to edit the document, changing text sizing, highlighting text, putting things in bold, italic, and underlining it, and so on and so forth, and the ability to edit it on the fly as well. So if you think of something 6 weeks later and you think, actually, we need to update that document, you can go back in there, make the necessary adjustments to that saved document, and continue from there. So, and then, as we mentioned earlier, if you're sharing this with your colleagues from that collaboration perspective, your colleagues will be able to jump in here as well. They'll be able to look at this document you've created, make suggestions, add comments, even edit it. If you've done a bit of spelling wrong or you've missed a couple of points out on a sales pitch, they can add those additional bits in for you and fill in the gaps there. So from professional, educational, even a personal context, the ability and the versatility of Microsoft Word is something that you'll see used throughout the business world quite heavily. And the next up, PowerPoint, which is exactly what you're basically seeing here today. This is the PowerPoint that we've obviously created with myself, Angela, and Vicky on the call. And this is literally what we call a slideshow. So a slideshow is we've gone in there, we've created this through dragging and dropping and inserting imagery, text boxes, the color profile for the business. You'll see we've got the branding on here with the cobweb logos and so on and so forth. And this is literally something we've created inside of PowerPoint. So what you're seeing now, this sort of heavy on images, videos, this graphical content to enhance people's engagement in interactions on Teams or even in person if we were doing this under those pretenses as well. Obviously, it gives you the ability to create those talking points on top of showing physical things such as demos, etc., which Angela is going to treat you to later on in this presentation. So again, really powerful capabilities that come with PowerPoint. It's hard to basically sum it up without you seeing it, looking at it and using it. So again, PowerPoint, something that I highly recommend looking into from a kind of a business presentation perspective. And again, we can show you around that if it is something you have more questions on the capabilities there. And last but not least is Excel, which tends to be anybody in finance or accounts, etc., very best friend is Excel. So Excel is all around the numbers. So we've spoken about the presentation aspect, the flashy piece. We've spoken about Word, which is the piece bringing all of the text and bits and pieces in. Excel is basically bringing in the whole Word aspect of the whole numbers aspect of this. So whether that just be a quick and easy number of cells on here that's doing a quick calculation for you. You can use something called formulas to do that, all the way through to perhaps a several thousand boxes or cells, as they're known, spreadsheet, which can be doing multiple different things, from looking at sales trends and patterns and introducing, pie charts and bar graphs and whatever else it is that you need to bring to the table as a part of that, to basically bring those numbers to life in a more interactive manner for people to look at, understand and see the trends and the patterns. The capabilities, again, are very, very big inside of Excel, probably even beyond my own skill set. In some of it, when you start looking at some of the more advanced features and functionality that's built into Excel. But this is very much a scenario where you can start integrating things like number formats and spreadsheets, where it will be, potentially pages of numbers, etc., and you need to calculate them, physically look at the trends that are in there. Perhaps you need to, identify cells in different colours and different columns in different colours, etc. Again, that's kind of the basics of the capabilities that you see inside of there. But, as it says on the screen there, from, looking at research tasks and, complex business calculations in spreadsheets and, finance documents, it's pretty powerful stuff. On to the next slide for us, please, Angela, if you can. Cross-device compatibility, again, really, really important parts that come with this. So when we say cross-device compatibility, that means that this doesn't just work on a Windows laptop because it's a Microsoft product. This also will work on a Mac. So if you have an Apple Mac, if you have an iPhone, an iPad, an Android phone, whatever it may be, it works across platforms on all of these different solutions. You will easily find them, these applications, just by a quick search inside your App Store or Android Play Store, for example, on mobile devices and tablets. So again, really easy to access these, log into these devices, access your data, and again, working remotely, on the bus on a phone, on the train on your phone, you can still make amendments to these documents. So the applications are available in these mobile devices, as well as your laptops, desktop PCs, Macs, so on and so forth. Next up, automatic updates and security. So basically, any of these applications, your OneDrives, your SharePoints, they are always kept on the most up-to-date version when you buy these solutions via Cobweb like this. Basically, what this means is that you're always using the latest features, the latest update, the latest security patches that sit within there as well. So you're not working on outdated software. It's not like it was many years ago when you would have an old Windows disk and a product key, and then the new version had come out, and you'd have to go buy a new disk and a new product key to go with that. You are always being updated, and you will always be on the latest version of these with the latest updated patches, etc., as a part of your experience of using the new version of licensing like this. Enhanced collaboration, we've always touched on quite heavily. So again, I won't dwell on this too much, but again, just to put emphasis on there from yours and your colleagues' perspective, that ability to be looking at the same document at the same time whilst you're on a call with each other. I can't stress enough how valuable it is. Just like we're doing now, there's me, Angela, Vicky, and all of yourselves on a call right now, and we're all actively looking at a document, which in another scenario, we could be collaborating on this and discussing what we're seeing with a Q&A and so on and so forth, as we'd be doing as a part of that, again, bringing all of that collaboration aspect into the product set. And then from a scalable subscription model as well, you obviously easily have the ability in there to be able to onboard new users, share the licensing. So if one colleague leaves and the new one comes in, you can shuffle the license across to that other user so that they can utilize it. And in terms of being able to purchase those licenses as new users come on, again, it's as simple as reach out to Cobweb, letting them know you've got a new starter coming on, new licenses purchased, added to your licensing models and things like that. So again, really easy going in terms of the flexibility of that. And there is various different methods of buying, whether that be, on an annual term or a monthly term, or however it is that you see best that obviously it fits your requirements as a part of that. Next up, please, Angela. So benefits to businesses here, looking from a productivity perspective, management perspective. We've mentioned webinars and things. So if I go through some of these really briefly here for you now, and again, I just wanted to talk to a few of the parts that I've not mentioned so much earlier on in this. So if we start off on there with productivity, you'll see work from anywhere, and that's, as we've mentioned, you have all of your core work applications installed on your device, so you can use them Excel spreadsheets, that Word document, this PowerPoint presentation. They all can be edited on the fly. When it comes to Outlook and Teams, you have the ability in there to collaborate with your team, whether again you're on an internet connection in a coffee shop, or you're hotspotting in the airport before you jump on a plane. You have the ability to remain engaged and communicating with your customers, your colleagues, and potentially wider audiences that you're trying to reach out to from maybe a new business perspective as well. When it comes to management, you have on here what's known as bookings, which is something we touched on very briefly earlier on, which allows you to basically book meetings and schedule reminders with people. So I'm sure some of you would have seen it before when you've had an email come through and you have that little link at the bottom and it says book time with me or book time in my diary, etc. You can press on that link and book a 30-minute meeting in with the individual. Well, that's what bookings is. So bookings will allow you as a user to create that little link, or you could have several links if you really wanted to. And you can set that so that you can book time in for, let's say, a quick ad hoc coffee and a catch up with somebody, or it may be one that's for a more technical deep dive and you need to book an hour-long meeting in with this. It will book all of that in, and you can even schedule it so that it sends a reminder the day before, the hour before. So it says, just to remember, you've got a meeting with James tomorrow at 2:00. And it'll ping that through automatically for you with the wording that you provide. Again, ensuring that you get the maximum possible attendance to your meetings from potential new clients, or it may be from an existing customer, etc. And it's just a friendly reminder aspect. Next up, you've got Shifts. Now, Shifts is something that's, again, really powerful tool, allows management more than anything to be able to set shift patterns for their colleagues. But then the colleagues in turn can then do what we call shift sharing. So they can offer their shifts up to other colleagues and let them know that, you know, they don't want to work on Tuesday from 10 till 2. So does anybody else want that shift? And it gives them the ability to offer that shift up to other colleagues, and then they can move their shifts between one another in terms of like a shift pattern and picking up those hours, etc. Management then have the ability to be able to audit that and look at it so that they can extract it, you know, perhaps for payroll purposes and things of that nature. So again, in terms of the capabilities there, it's not just for the manager, it also gives employees the ability to, you know, offer up their shift patterns and ensure that time and dates, etc., are all covered. And then the same from a management perspective, you know, if they've got extra hours going of overtime, they can push that out there and let staff know and let them all kind of, you know, decide who wants those extra hours and who doesn't. We then have forms, which we've obviously been through, event registration, feedback forms, etc., as a part of that. And then onto the webinars aspect as well. So webinars, just as we're doing here and now, it gives you the ability to create and set these up so that you can, again, have those engaging PowerPoints like we're doing here now, create that for yourselves and talk to your customers about, you know, important subject matter to them. So whether it be business standard like we're doing today, could be, you know, cybersecurity one that you've been on with us before, or even ones around, you know, Copilot that you've sat on with us before. This gives you that same capability for your business, your product set, and what's important to you and your customers to talk about. So again, engaging set of tools there that are available to you, and a pretty advanced set of tools as well in terms of creating registration pages and welcome emails and things of that nature as a part of that. And then last but not least, we're on to customer engagement. So obviously you have the ability here as well to connect a lot of these apps between one another. So you can connect your Outlook to several other applications that are out there. There is a pretty big list of things that you can do, but you know, other examples of this would be things such as like MailChimp. You can connect into an Outlook environment and it allows you to then do things around marketing emails, for example, that you perhaps push out there. And again, there's a whole host of available products, and, you know, MailChimp's just one such example, but there is a whole host out there of different things that you could integrate your Outlook web app directly into these solutions, and in turn, you know, kind of create a little bit more of a powerhouse of a product for you guys in terms of perhaps lead generation that you're looking at, newsletters, whatever that may be that's important to you and the business. Next slide, please, Angela. And then, yeah, just want to enhance the cost effectiveness of it. If we jump on, in the interest of time, Angela, because you'll get to show everybody the really exciting part in a few moments. So simplifying technology and investment and kind of reducing the cost there with it all. Now, some of the features and functionality that comes inside of here is probably a little bit more advanced than what some of yourselves will be doing. And again, it's kind of one to take with almost like a slight pinch of salt, shall we say. But what Microsoft 365 Business Standard does is comes with some capabilities, etc., that will allow you to do a little bit more stuff around your single sign-on, your multi-factor authentication, etc., and just the ways and means that users log in with their devices and how they engage with your internal IT systems, etc. Basically simplifying the login process, also seeing which devices users are using as a part of that, as a part of their kind of like a device checklist to make sure, is somebody actually using a personal device for work? And you can see some of that sort of entry-level style analytical data as a part of your license that comes with that. Obviously, AI protection, and it gives a mention to device management there. Again, this is very early entry-level stuff into this type of thing, and it does get more advanced as you go up the Microsoft tiers and bring add-ons or etc. into the equation. But when we say like AI protection, etc., this is just giving a bit of a nod to the very basic spam filters that are built into your Microsoft Outlook environments, etc., to ensure that you don't get spammed with, you know, unwanted emails and things like that. This is by no means an email protection solution, but what it does do is start filtering out some of those mass spam emails and things, looking for patterns in there, etc., that come with that. And then again, collaboration and productivity tools we've already touched on there. So the kind of the emphasis we're putting on things here is that this is a very, very well-rounded product with a lot of features and functionality included in it at a, you know, very competitive price versus if you was to look at this from, you know, other third-party solutions. If we can just go on to the next slide there for me, Angela. I think there is a cost comparison piece coming up. And this is looking at things from a, as I say, a business standard perspective. If you was to go away and buy a lot of these individual component parts that we've looked on here, like the ability to have that ease of signing, that MFA with like a single sign-on solution, bringing into play things like your OneDrive, so that storage, and SharePoint with that collaborative storage, your Teams applications and that Excel and Word and PowerPoint piece. And again, bringing all of those bits together and all of those capabilities from a third-party solutions perspective, it's about $32 a month, which would be about £25 per user per month. Whereas your Microsoft 365 Business Standard license incorporates all of those, because we've just been through it right now. $12.50 a month is a ballpark price on what you're looking at there for that in terms of a monthly cost. So again, vastly more cost effective. And again, that price will fluctuate depending on whether you do annual commitments and monthly commitment models and different billing styles, etc. But $12.50 is about the approximate there for the middle of the line. If we could jump onto the next slide, please, Angela. And I believe this will be one of the last ones from me, just to kind of put a little bit of a covering on it all at the end for you, shall we say. So, cost comparison with third-party solutions. The business standard license comes in very cost-effective versus all these other solutions brought together. Business Standard offers all of these solutions in a single fixed monthly cost license. So it's not multiple pieces. You're not having to buy all of the parts we spoke about today. It's one license, everything included, plus the Copilot chat features that Angela's going to be touching on shortly. Obviously, more cost effective than the third-party solutions that are out there. Those third-party solutions that we looked at is just a few of the names you're seeing on the screen there now. So if you are using Google Workspaces, Slacks, Okta, any of these sorts of products that are out there, then, absolutely reach out to the Cobweb team. Go through this in a little bit more depth, because there's some real cost savings that can potentially be had here by utilising products like Business Standard, or if you're using more advanced versions of some of these vendors as well, there is even business premium licenses and more that's available out there. On to the next slide, please, Angela. And pretty much just summarising up exactly what we said. Everything you need in Business Basic, and it brings all of that feature and functionality into Business Standard, bringing in your desktop applications and your webinar pieces there. Now, there is another little mention on the end here for Microsoft Loop, which is something that, again, comes into Business Standard and is something that's often not talked about. And I did want to give a little nod for it at the end, because from my perspective, it's a very powerful tool. And what Microsoft Loops basically does is acts as a collaborative, almost like project management space for you all. So it gives you the ability there that if your team's working on maybe some large-scale event that's going to go ahead, or maybe a new product launch that you're going to be doing, Microsoft Loop basically creates a centralized page where you and your colleagues will have the ability to provide updates, and collaborate on documents, drop different updates in there. If it's like a competitor news piece that you're working on or something of that nature, again, as snippets of information become available to you, centralized location to go in there and share it, bring yourself up to date, and so on and so forth. So again, Microsoft Loop built into Business Standard, really good collaborative workspace for everyone to be able to bring all of their pieces of a puzzle together and kind of collaborate on all of that. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Angela to go through kind of Copilot chat and all the exciting stuff.
Thanks, James. So as all of you have heard, there's a lot of different types of solutions included in Business Standard. Not only are there obviously security, collaboration and productivity tools, you also have a Microsoft 365 Copilot chat included in Business Standard. So it's not an add-on, it's not an additional cost, it's included in your license. And a lot of you might not know what it is. So I've got the pleasure of talking to you all around Copilot for the next half an hour. So it's your AI assistant that is basically secure for work. So anybody that is actually using AI at the moment, possibly a third party, maybe a consumer solution like the free version of ChatGPT, it might not really be secure for business purposes. And Microsoft has created something called Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat in order for you to stay productive and in order for you to not expose any of your sensitive information outside to the public web or other organizations, etc. So I'm going to dive into it in a little bit more detail as to how are you going to access it first of all. So there's many different areas that you can access Copilot Chat. One of my favorite areas to access it is actually just through your teams that James has touched on, where you can collaborate through chat, through channels, through Teams meetings. So Copilot Chat would be within your Teams chat. At the very top, it would say Copilot. But again, it shows there are different areas that you can access it. m365copilot.com or office.com. It takes you to the same page, and you'll see a very similar interface within each application that you select. Very recently, Copilot Chat does integrate within applications as well. So your Outlook, your PowerPoint, your Excel, and your Microsoft Word. So previously, you would have to actually attach a document to Copilot Chat in order for your Copilot to actually digest it or summarize it, whatever you want to instruct it to do. Whereas just to have more of that seamless experience, if you're working on a document in your Microsoft Word, you can just click onto your Copilot Chat and it can have a look at that document without you having to attach it. So you just have more of a seamless experience, and you don't have to, have that disjoint experience. Now, very, very soon within Microsoft Outlook, which is where your emails will be, Copilot Chat will be able to access all of your emails, so your entire inbox. So it's not only going to just look at one email. If you want it to look at previous emails that you've had conversations with a certain recipient, it will be able to do that as well. You can also download it on your phone. So you can obviously scan that QR code or download it on an app, and you can have it, if anybody works on the go a lot, you can have Copilot right by your side on your mobile device. So let's get started with how you can actually start accessing it, what you can do. So as I said, you can access it in many different areas. One of the areas is m365copilot.com or office.com. You have to log in with your work credentials, so your Microsoft account. As long as you've logged into that, you'll see a green shield, as you can see under number 2. As long as you see that green shield, that means it has enterprise data protection. So what that means is anything that you input into Copilot Chat, when I say input, I'm talking about the instructions that you're giving it. So you're prompting the data that you're giving it, or even you're asking Copilot to retrieve information for you. It's all protected. So nobody has eyes on it. Microsoft doesn't have eyes on it. It's not going to leak outside of the organization. So it's a secure way of working. So it does access things over the web. Although it can access things over the web, it will basically bring information back to you without exposing your business. Okay. Now, let's talk about how it's going to look. So when you go onto your Copilot Chat interface, you're going to see a lot of different options, and I don't want it to be overwhelming for everyone. So at the very, very bottom, this is going to be the main space that you're going to use, which is called your prompt box. So that's where you instruct Copilot, what do you want it to perform? What kind of tasks do you want it to perform? You can even attach files. So if you haven't opened up a PowerPoint deck within Microsoft PowerPoint and you just want to attach something, click on to add content, and you can find anything that's stored on your device or your OneDrive, for example. All of the cards in the middle, so you can see 6 white cards, those are suggested prompts. So I highly recommend having a look at those, especially if you're new to using AI. You might need a little bit of inspiration. So it will give you some suggested prompts to use to provide back to Copilot to give you a response back. There is another button on the top right hand side, and it says new chat. So every time you're communicating with Copilot and you're changing the topic, let's say 1 minute you're talking about having a look at an email, another minute you're talking about some market research over the web, I recommend changing the chat history. So just clicking on new chat so it doesn't get confused based on your previous conversation. And everything on the right hand side is called agents. So I'm not going to go into agents in too much detail today because I don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed. Essentially, you basically create your own Copilot and you can direct it to a specific website or websites, and you can ask that Copilot to behave in a particular way. So every time you ask questions, it will look at those websites and it will provide you answers in a certain format of your preference. Okay, so that's how it looks in the interface. How to get started is number 1, ask Copilot a question or a command. That is called a prompt. So you're prompting Copilot. Once Copilot provides you a response, we go to number 2, and you will also get citations. So when Copilot gives you a response back, you'll be able to verify where it's got its information from. As you can see at the bottom, it's highlighted 2 citations. You can click onto them in order to make sure that you're happy with the sources that it's looked at. And then number 3 is you can carry on that conversation. So let's say you wanted Copilot to elaborate on a certain point, or even change the topic to, you know, the next step. You can carry on that conversation just like you're speaking to a colleague. All right, some do's and don'ts. So please don't be vague, add any slang, be quite specific. So just like if you're instructing a colleague, that's how you should be instructing Copilot with your prompts as well. Copilot Chat does sit on something called responsible AI, which means anything that you do ask, it has certain filters, which means it won't come back with anything unethical, illegal, inappropriate. You shouldn't be asking those types of questions in the first place. So it will push back and it won't give you those responses back, because Copilot has been created for business purposes. So you should be using it in a respectful way as well. Okay, now off the back of best practices, I'm going to give you a helpful tip on how to prompt. So there's something called GCSE. Okay, I'm not bringing you back to school, and I'm not telling you to add this in every single prompt. It's just a good starting point for best practice. Okay, goal, context, source, and expectation should be included within your prompt, okay? So your instructions, and I'll give you an idea of what that looks like. So goal is tell Copilot what you want. So I want 3 to 5 bullet points. Context is don't be afraid to tell Copilot why do you want those bullet points. So in this case, I'm trying to prepare for a meeting with client X to discuss their phase 3 brand campaign. Source, tell Copilot where to look. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to attach a PDF. So focus on this PDF. And then expectations is you are going to get 3 to 5 bullet points, but who are they for? Who's your target audience? Is it for yourself? Is it for a client? Is it for some team members? Because the language will be slightly different. So in this case, it will be for myself. So I want simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. Now, it doesn't have to be in this order. It doesn't have to be with every prompt. It's just best practice, especially when you first start using Copilot, because we don't want you to be frustrated. We don't want you to keep going back and forth with Copilot saying, this is wrong. I want it in a more professional manner. Actually, this was targeted for this audience, not for me. Just mention it in your first prompt and you're more likely to be satisfied with Copilot's response. Right, so the exciting part is the demos. So let's get to it. So as you can see, I have got an email and it's quite lengthy and it's all around some festive goods that a bakery has just launched. However, wouldn't you prefer to have something that's, you know, maybe straight to the point, and obviously it's still bolded, you can still see the types of bakery goods that has just been announced, and you're probably more likely to read the entire email as well. Now, how have I got Copilot to simplify that email for me? So what I've done is I have pasted that chunky email that you've seen initially onto Copilot Chat, and I've asked Copilot to make it shorter, punchier, and without losing any detail. That's really important as well. So mention, please don't lose any detail. So once I hit enter, Copilot will do its thing and basically provide me that shorter response that you just seen on the previous slide. So very simple. It's all recorded in real time. I haven't fast forwarded anything. So based on your instructions, Copilot will follow it and give it to you in your preference. Okay, so that's how a nice way to shorten an email without losing any detail. Let's talk about collaboration. Now, James did touch on this and he mentioned Microsoft Loop. So Microsoft Loop is all around collaborations, sharing documents. How does Copilot work with Loop? So I'm going to give you an example. I've got a response back from Copilot. I basically uploaded a Teams transcript and I've asked Copilot to give me a summary of that Teams transcript. It gives you a couple of icons at the bottom. At the very top is my prompt, what I've asked it to do. You can save it as well, which I'll come back to. But let's go back to those icons. If you click onto the first one that looks a bit like a book, it says edit in Pages. And Pages sits under Loop. So basically, it's given me the response in an editable way. So I'm going to delete the areas that I don't want. I don't really want my prompt. I just want the response back from Copilot. And I'm going to share this page with one of my colleagues, Christina. So I'm just going to copy the link and I'm going to share that link with her. And as you can see, both of us are on that page now, as you can see at the top. And at the bottom, you can see that in real time, I can see what she's doing. So she's crossed out my name and she's delegating action item 3 to Andy, one of our colleagues. So in real time, you can collaborate, you can share responses with Copilot. So rather than Copilot just being your individual productivity, you can also work together with a response alongside with your colleagues as well, using pages. Now, let's say you've closed that down. How are you going to access that page again? So if you go onto m365copilot.com or office.com, you'll see something like this. So you'll get a sidebar. If you click onto library, there will be something that says pages, and you can choose whether you have created that page yourself or somebody has shared a page with you, and then it will filter through the pages that you're looking for, so you can access it again. Okay, so that's how you can use pages to collaborate with your colleagues. You don't even have to, I clicked on page link. There is loop component as well, which means you could even just share an area of a page rather than the entire page with a colleague. So you have two options of that. Let's talk about Teams meetings. Okay, so we're having a Teams meeting. In order for Copilot to give you some minutes back, you will need to turn transcription on. So for those of you that have never used Teams meetings before, I'm just going to show you where transcription is. So you click onto the ellipses right here, and then it will say record and transcribe. If you just click on start transcription with the language that you prefer, whilst you're having that conversation, Teams is going to transcribe that meeting. When the meeting ends, that transcription will be deposited back into your Teams chat. So whatever your Teams meeting was called, my meeting was called Teams meeting, go onto it, and then it will show you an area that says transcript. So you can download that transcript, and it will look, in my case, this is a fake transcription, all around updates between a couple of colleagues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that transcript now, and I'm going to go back to my Copilot, and I'm going to ask Copilot, can you provide me a summary of that Teams meeting? And I want the date of the meeting, the people that have attended the meeting, some key takeaways, action items in a table format, any links that were shared. So it's following the instructions that I specifically asked for, which is exactly what I wanted, basically. And as I said, you can even save your prompt. So all you need to do is hover over your prompt, click onto that little bookmark, name it whatever you like. I'm going to name it Team Summary. You could name it, Teams Transcript, etc. Then save it. It's going to be saved in a prompt gallery. So when you click onto the prompt gallery, you have two options. When you click on suggested, these are Microsoft suggested prompts. So you can change the filters if you want to learn or understand something. If you sit in a certain department or a certain industry, click onto it and it will filter through the relevant types of prompts that you could use. But you could also click onto your prompts, which is your own prompt library. And we've already saved one called Teams Summary. So when you click onto it, it pre-populates into the prompt box like so. So then you can just delete the old transcript and then have the new one present. Okay, so that is how you can save your prompts. Now, let me show you something slightly different. So I'm going to type in recap. And I've uploaded the same Word document. The way that I've uploaded the document was just / and it will show you your recently saved document, or you could use the plus button at the bottom. But it's provided me a very similar response to my previous one. And I haven't really given it much detail, but that's because I've kind of done a shortcut. So I've gone onto my settings. If you click onto personalization, then custom instructions, I've actually told Copilot when a Teams meeting has been transcribed and I say recap, this is the response that I want. The date of the meeting, the attendees' names, the key takeaways, the action items in a table format. So I don't actually need to save my prompts. If it's a prompt that you feel like you're not really going to change, you should add that into your custom instructions. So then you could just ask Copilot a keyword and it will follow your pre-instructions. Okay, so it's almost like you can add your GCSE framework into custom instructions, and then it will follow your preference. Okay, so that is Teams transcripts and custom instructions. Let's stay on to custom instructions because I feel like you can stay more productive if you add a lot more information into custom instructions. This is basically a way for you to tell Copilot how to behave when you ask a certain question. So let's go further. I'm going to click back into custom instructions and I'm going to say, Copilot, I want to learn some things. And every time I want you to teach me, I want you to teach me as if you're teaching a class of 12-year-olds. I want to learn in less than 5 minutes. I want a couple of table formats if it's appropriate as well. So when I'm asking Copilot, what's the difference between Copilot Chat and M365 Copilot, and only use Microsoft websites to source? Copilot is going to give me a response back, but as you can see, it's taking a little bit more time to provide me that response because it's following that detailed custom instructions. So it's not just going to give you an imminent response, but it's going to follow it the way that you prefer. So as you can see, it's providing it in a format that's easy to digest. It's comparing Copilot Chat to the paid version, which is called Microsoft 365 Copilot. And at the end, it's also going to give me a table format, which is my preference, etc. So hopefully you get the idea of using custom instructions in order to guide Copilot the way that you prefer. So you could even say all my responses, all the responses that you provide me needs to be in British English language. Don't use M dashes, for example. Okay, so let's talk about Excel. A lot of people shy away from Excel. Maybe you've got a lot of spreadsheets and you don't really want to do that data analysis, but you want to get an idea of what's going on within your spreadsheet. You can use Copilot Chat for that. So as I said, you can attach your spreadsheets just using that plus button on the bottom left-hand side, or you could just use the / button and it will show you your recently saved documents. And if you know the title of it, just start typing it in and it will pop up. Now I'm asking Copilot, can you provide me a graph with the top 10 and bottom 10 bakery goods in revenue? And literally within seconds, Copilot is going to provide me a visual representation. So I could either copy it and put it onto a PowerPoint slide deck, for example, and I immediately know the top 10 products that is doing really well in the bakery. Okay, so that's how you can get some visual representations. Let's go back into our emails. So I'm saying, Copilot, can you give me some coaching feedback on my email based on tone, clarity, and sentiment of the email? Now, this is my email, I've pasted it. Sorry, I can't give you an update on this issue currently, but I can assure you this is being addressed. I'm not available tomorrow. However, I am free Friday. Kind regards, Angela. So I've put that into my Copilot Chat in order to give me some feedback. And let's see what it comes back with. So under tone, it's saying that it's coming across a little bit rushed and maybe it's slightly uncertain. Although I am being apologetic, I could be a little bit more reassuring. Under clarity, you've probably picked up that there was a couple of spelling mistakes. That was by purpose, but Copilot has picked up that I have a couple of spelling mistakes. And even under sentiment, Copilot is suggesting that I could be a little bit more positive. It's even revised my email, my original email, to something a little bit more softer toned. So in this case, it's saying, hi, Oliver, thanks for your patience. I don't have an update to share just yet, but please be assured the issue is being addressed. I'm not available tomorrow, but I can meet on Friday if that works for you. Kind regards, Angela. So not only has it corrected my grammar, my spelling mistakes, but it's also softened that tone in order for me to provide that back to a recipient. Okay, so Copilot can definitely help you better your writing style, or even fluff it up sometimes. If you feel like you're in a rush, get Copilot support on that. As I said, Copilot Chat can access things over the web as well. So let's do some internet searches. So I'm asking Copilot to help me understand how it protects company data a little bit further, but I only want Microsoft sources. I mentioned that in my prompt. So as you can see, it's provided me the responses, it's given me the citations, and if I click onto any of them, it directs me to that web page, so I can know exactly where Copilot has got that information from, so I can easily, rather than me like filtering through page after page on certain URLs, just get Copilot to do it for you and then sense check it. Okay, so you can do your internet searches. Not last but not least is create. So you can get Copilot to create you images, posters, infographics, etc. All AI generated. So let's start off with image. There's a couple of pre-built ones that Copilot has already created. I like the one that says learn, and it gives you the prompt. So you don't really have to think outside of the box. I'm going to change the word learn to Copilot. So you can edit it as you wish. You can change the style further, and even you can add your company branded colors if you prefer. You can change the size. Let's say you're posting it on a web page or LinkedIn. You can have differentiations on there. Now, I have fast forwarded this one because I don't want you staring at a screen for 2 minutes, because it does take a little while to create. It takes about 1 or 2 minutes. But as you can see, this is what it's created. It's used my inspiration photo, and it's also changed the word to Copilot and also used my preferred colors as well. And you can further refine it on the right hand side. I'm saying use a pink background. I uploaded the Copilot logo, and it will further refine it however you wish. So you can create images using Copilot. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how Copilot Chat can help you with your emails, whether it's providing more details or refining it, giving you some helpful feedback, coaching feedback, how you can get your summarizations after a Teams meeting, so you no longer have to note take, or you can stay fully engaged with that person, that client or that colleague on a Teams meeting, transcribe it, and then get Copilot to summarize everything for you at the end. It can help you with learning, so speeding up your learning processes. I haven't added all of the demos, but because there's so many different types of examples, but you can even get Copilot to test you on certain areas. So let's say you're trying to study on a certain topic, you can feed that information and then tell Copilot to quiz you on that information as well, on one question at a time, multiple choice, etc. And then lastly, you can do your internet searches. So key takeaways is storytelling. So don't be afraid to tell Copilot a little bit of a story as to why you want Copilot to perform a certain task for you. So that GCSE framework that I was telling you about. New topic, new chat. So every time you change the conversation with Copilot, just click on that button, new chat, because the last thing that you want to do is get Copilot to provide you a response and it's completely irrelevant because it's talking about a conversation that you had 5 minutes ago. That's because you're in the same chat window. Just refresh it. You can give feedback directly to Microsoft. So let's say there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down icon against every response, and you could either provide the response back to Microsoft or just give written feedback in order for them to constantly improve the tool for you, because there's going to constantly be new features and capabilities in this Copilot Chat. So don't feel like this is the be all and end all. This is just the starting point. My favorite, because for those of you that might feel maybe overwhelmed with the prompting, you've never done prompting before, my favorite tip would be prompt for a prompt. So ask Copilot for a prompt. So just say, I'm trying to achieve this. Can you provide me a better prompt? And Copilot will provide you a prompt that you can feed back to Copilot Chat. Okay, so use it to your advantage. Right, I'm going to hand this back to Vicky. I hope you found that interesting.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela, for that. So that was a very deep dive into both a business standard and, of course, what's available with Microsoft's offering in AI. That's the buzzword at the moment. It doesn't look like we've actually got any questions, so I think we can wrap up. Thanks, everyone, for watching. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to just get in touch with us. We've got lots of other videos, like Angela says, demos as well, and resources when it comes to both Copilot, but also comparing the different Microsoft licenses too. So thank you both again, and we hope to see you soon, everybody. Have a great afternoon.